Recorded in the past.
We'll call the meeting of the Millersville Planning Commission to order. This is Tuesday, April the 11th, and we'll begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Secretary, roll call, please.
Chairman Frank Fox.
Present.
Vice Chairman Lynn Crouch. Here. Secretary David Gregory is here. Greg Elwich. Larry Petty.
Here.
Keith Bell.
Here.
We got a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Before we get too far into the meeting, it's time for me to ask the commission completely if you have anything that you'd like to comment on or had any communication with any of the action items that are at this meeting. If you have, would like to share them with us in a summary fashion, that would be appreciated.
And Mr. Chairman, that would be in particular to Miss Elaine Dugas or her daughter and son-in-law, Michelle and Stephen Lasker.
Thank you. All right, let the record show that nobody had anything to say relative to ex parte communications. Take a minute to review the minutes from the previous meeting and see if we can get a motion to approve those minutes. I'll entertain a motion that the minutes of the March 14 meeting be approved as read.
I make a motion to approve the minutes planning on the meeting on March 14, 2007.
Have a motion, we have a second.
I second.
All right, let the record show that Gregory and Petty moved and approved. All in favor say aye. Aye. One abstention. One abstention, Mr. Bell. All right, we're down to number 6, action items. We're going to ask for a motion to put the minor subdivision plat of 1780 Highway 31W back on the table for discussion tonight. All in favor, or is there a motion?
Move that we we're talking about the 1780 Highway 31W.
Yes, sir. Yes.
The minor subdivision plat of 1780 Highway 31W.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Gregory, second. Thank you very much. And any objection? Let the record show unanimous approval. All right, Mr. Barr, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd like to grab one and pass it on down. Here's an enlarged copy if you would like to zoom in on what we have here. Since the last meeting that we had where we tabled this item, we had the surveyor clean up some issues that our consultant surveyors identified, and this appears to be satisfactory to them and to me. There were just a couple of minor revisions to be made on it, but they were substantial enough that I felt that due to the time that the applicant had to wrap up the rezoning. So the second reading is scheduled for next Tuesday for the City Commission, that this plat wasn't in a rush to push through. So in my opinion at this point, the proposed subdivision plat document is complete and satisfactory, and I'm recommending approval by this body of this plat. However, I'd like to have it conditioned upon the second reading and approval by the City Commission of the associated rezoning. In other words, y'all can approve it, but I'd request that we hold off on executing it until after the rezoning is completed. And to give you a little more background, without the rezoning for the 0.7 acre parcel, it would not be developable. And in fact, the subdivision would not be appropriate because it would create a non-conforming lot. And we have particular provision that prevents that.
If we approve the subdivision of the 0.7 acre parcel, what would it be? It'd be zoned R1 right now, correct?
It is zoned R1, yes, as being part of the master parcel, which is zoned R1. So this is a conditional approval, is what I'm requesting.
Yeah, I was looking back at the minutes for our last meeting. The reason we passed this motion is reason I'm asking. The setback standards for our law, they were not allowed to build up this parcel, they don't allow.
Under the R3, once that's approved by the city commission, yes.
So we'll let that prove it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Is what's being considered by the city commission, the zoning of R1 to R4, is that only applicable to this 0.7 acres, or
Yes,
is
sir.
it applicable to the 25 acres?
Only to, I'm sorry, in R4, let me stand corrected, not R3, but R4, as Mr. Bell pointed out. No, just the 0.7 acres will go to the R4. The balance of the acreage, I believe about 24 and a half to 25 acres, will remain R1.
I got confused because I thought you said it was R1, so is it R1 or R4?
Today it's R1. Hopefully next Tuesday evening it will become R4.
Oh, okay.
But the 0.70 is
Today it is.
Tonight, we're
I got you.
gonna approve the plat, so the commissioners, subject to the commissioners agreeing to rezone this or approve.
All right, if there's an issue for you all, you can push it off another month, but I don't think that's necessary if the approval is conditional.
But the 25.87
No, sir, the 25 acres will remain R1. Only the 0.7 is being adjusted. And both parcels, the R1 to 25 acres will remain conforming with all the required setbacks and whatnot, block widths and all that. So there's no creation of a non-conforming use on the R1 master parcel. It's something that we're very careful of examining now as we move forward.
I have a question, the one with R4, and over at Berryman, she's already in R4. Where's the house is gonna be, where it's gonna still meet all the setback from the side?
Yes, sir. It should, yes, sir.
I don't have to worry about the back, but it kind of, this thing,
Well,
this side.
On this side,
Yeah.
we're not taking any action on.
I know about her, when we're taking action on this.
Yes, sir.
We're not, it's gonna have to meet.
15-foot side setback.
Okay,
Yes.
that's all I'm asking.
For the side setbacks, front is 25, and I believe rear is 20. But they have plenty of room. They work very closely with their surveyor and their proposed house plans to make sure that they would fit.
Any more discussion?
Is the house going to be situated behind the underground electric utility?
Yes, sir.
There's setback requirement.
I believe that, not in our code, but generally, the utility company requires an offset of at least 10 feet.
That's what we mean, right?
Yes, sir.
We're looking for additional, or like substitute.
The rezoning approval at the next commission, or whenever. And if it is not, then this essentially the replat approval becomes null and void if the rezoning is never.
Do they have a time limit on
Not that I'm aware
that? That it would affect these people that they couldn't build their house?
of. Well, they're not gonna be able to build their house unless it is approved for the R4. And in fact, if it's not approved for the R4, we should not execute the plat, the replat.
Are you ready for questions, gentlemen?
Well, if we vote tonight, is there not a requirement that the chairman sign the plat as currently? I mean,
Actually, the
if-
secretary of the planning commission signs the plat. That being said, the plat has not been, the plat document is in its final form. However, the applicant needs to have other signatures obtained. We're the last signature to the plat. And then we hand it back to them, they take it to the county and the court.
All right, my question is, are we putting the cart before the horse in as much as, are we obligating this planning commission by signing off on this plat before the rezoning occurs?
I believe if the
I
motion,
realize it's
and perhaps the motion needs to be adjusted to reflect the conditional approval based on the rezoning to the R4.
I'm just wanting to make sure that Mr. Gregory that he's not obligated to sign the plat immediately, which is normally what happens. That the motion is such that there is a delay until after the commission meeting next week. I don't want him to be legally obligated, and I don't want somebody coming back to him saying you need to sign it now before the city commission takes it up.
And because of that, perhaps it is appropriate to modify your motion to, and I believe you made the motion? Is that what happened?
No motion.
Oh, no motion has been made yet.
And so if you're asking for question, nobody said anything.
And actually, we probably shouldn't be having, for Robert's Rules of Order, we really shouldn't even be having this open discussion until the motion is placed on the table.
Well, that's what I was trying to do, get a motion.
So I would recommend that whoever makes the motion also include the condition of approving and executing the plat after the city commission approves the R4 rezone.
I move that this commission approve the R4, allow for the resubdivision of the plat of this parcel, 7-acre parcel, the conditioning upon the city commission making their final decision as to whether or not it should be rezoned from an R1 to an R4, and as such that prohibiting the secretary of this commission from signing it until approved by the city commission to be an R4 rather than the R1.
I think that's pretty clear.
Real clear. Well, I have to go. Thank you, Mr. Bell.
I say,
Mr. Petty seconds. All in favor, say, is any more discussion?
Any other questions?
We've already been through it, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Item 7, Development Services Department Report.
Developmentally challenged department director report.
I didn't say that. No, well, you're all right. Again, return the floor to Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of items going on out there in our community. We had a site plan submitted for a 12,000 square foot commercial retail and office center towards the south end of town. We've just begun our reviewing on that. We had a preliminary review sent back to the applicant to clean up before we accept it for final processing and through our engineers and whatnot. So I'm encouraged. The developer is looking to fast track the construction, so hopefully we'll have that on the books by the end of the year. So increase our commercial inventory. Also today, I met the new Tennessee Economic and Community Development Commissioner, Mr. Rolfe, over at Gallatin, and his staff is actually going to be attending the industrial park, the Fletcher Love Industrial Park Economic Development Study or initiative that we're having a workshop here Monday afternoon. They are acutely aware of some of our utility challenges along West Bethel Road and looking to see how they can assist the city in getting upsizing water and whatnot over there. So that was very encouraging to meet the new commissioner. We also working with a couple of apartment developers that are kicking tires here in the city. And further down this evening, I'll talk about some of the changes to our zoning ordinance that will address some of the multifamily. So we'll get to that. And what else is going on out there? We'll begin shopping the hotel feasibility study out there, working with the consultant on that for exposure. And what else do we have happening out there? Some new businesses looking at opportunities to come to Millersville because we are simpler and less complicated and friendlier than some of our neighbors out there. And so looking to come up north out of Metro Nashville and even from Millersville. We have businesses probably going to come up out of Millersville too. So not giant businesses, but every little bit, baby steps helps us get along our way here. That is about it on that topic. As far as the BZA last week, they met and approved a variance for Mr. Roger Jones for adjusting the minimum lot width at the building elevation for some property that he owns just north of City Hall. It's up there real close to Pole Hill Road, just north of the transformer station. He is acutely aware that there is C1 in the first 200 feet, but because of the property having been previously excavated, he's going to place a double wide, relocate a double wide up on the shelf a portion of the way up the property. But unfortunately, in 1999, when we enacted the zoning ordinance with the associated zoning map, that changed the zoning class on that property. It, at that time, made it non-conforming. So we had to, we were happy to help the owner, but it was a mistake on the city's part because we designated it a zoning class that it was not conforming to. And we have other parcels throughout the city that had that. But nevertheless, the BZA recognized that it wasn't an onerous decision to give that variance to Mr. Jones. And that was about it for the BZA. It was a pretty quick meeting. Also, I have some handouts if you'd like to discuss the zoning amendments that will add. Actually, first off, it separates out duplexes from multifamily dwellings in our code. And two of you are familiar with this because it was brought forward at Monday night of last week's workshop. So essentially, duplexes will be allowed in certain residential zoning districts, but with a special exception here. So the BZA will hear those. And we're only looking at zoning classes, I believe, 3 and 4 for those. Not 5, because we feel that the lot sizes for 5 are too small for a duplex. And it's probably not appropriate in some of the subdivisions that are R5. And obviously 1 and 2 are larger parcels, and those are typically geared towards just single-family homes. But we are making some language adjustments to talk about detached units, like mother-in-law units, if you will. There seems to be some conflicting language in the code about connected detached apartments. And so we're working through those changes, and we should have those prepared, hopefully.
You can just have a breezeway between them.
Only if it's enclosed.
What if it's got just one board?
Yeah, with a 2x4 over the top, is that a roof if you put shingles on it? That's, yeah. Our language in some of our code is confusing, to say the least, conflicting in some cases. Nevertheless, we're working through that. But more importantly, in the commercial districts, C1 and C3, we'd like to allow multifamily dwellings by special exception. And in that, and we've talked about it in the past, about how multifamily has a direct access or connection to service businesses and commercial areas, as far as the customer base, employee base, walkability, connectability, and then also because there is a tremendous demand for multifamily, particularly with convenient access to the interstate. And it's not inappropriate to have that multifamily mixed in with commercial, service, retail, and those sorts of businesses throughout the nation, not just within our region here. It's not uncommon to have that. So this gives that flexibility for allowing multifamily. That being said, the multifamily standards, we're working on adjusting those to tighten up the, like for instance, open space, recreational areas, because right now it's pretty ambiguous. It's wide open, and we really feel internally with staff that we need to have tighter control over what's being proposed, and in this case to the planning commission on multifamily site plans. There's some concern that we may have a lot of inconsistent apartment complexes, and we want to try to make it more uniform. And so you'll be seeing that come through. Obviously, this board will review it before it goes to the city commission for action. So I do have handouts if you want to see the marked up and whatnot. Otherwise, I'll move on, unless you all have any questions on that. Then the last step.
You saved the best for last, didn't you?
I did. I have had some phone calls, again, and
Got some turkeys.
I've had some phone calls from some of our residents, and I've spent a bit of time looking at some of what our neighbors are doing, whether it's Goodlettsville or Gallatin, White House, Portland, Springfield, Greenbrier, and even Metro Nashville allows backyard chickens. In particular, just hens. That there is almost across the board a strict prohibition to roosters, unless you're getting into large tract agriculture or those farms. So I wanted to put that on the table for you all to discuss. There are a number of standards that we could incorporate as far as from a health perspective to require if somebody does keep chickens that they keep them in certain fashion, they keep them in certain conditions, and they can't leave their property lines. They have to be penned, they have to have coops, and then oftentimes they're tying the number of chickens or hens, if you will, to the size of the properties, either to the size or in some cases to the zone.
Would you propose chickens that are R1 zone?
I don't see that being inappropriate, considering R1 generally reflects a 5 acre or more parcel.
What about R4, R5?
Probably not R5, because that standard is usually for a smaller, tighter subdivision, not necessarily smaller, but tighter, smaller lot subdivision that has a minimum of 10,000 square feet. It might be difficult I'm not quite sure the words I should use on this. A lot that small, it could negatively impact the neighbors. And that's what I'm mindful of, is to, how do we protect your neighbors if somebody's going to have chickens? So perhaps they need to have more than half an acre, or R4, R3, R2, R1. And then there are certain setback standards that are not uncommon for the coops and even for the chicken runs or whatever they call those. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on whether you felt that Millersville should join some of our neighbors out there in allowing chickens in a limited fashion. I'm not talking about across the board.
What does Metro have?
They actually have very liberal allowances for chickens, and like down to, I believe, either a 2,500 or 3,000 square foot lot that will allow, I think, up to 2 chickens, and then for a quarter acre lot they allow 6. And I don't have the standards in front of me, but
what is the minimum acreage or size of an R4 lot?
is 20,000 square feet, half of it.
An R3, what, 2 acres, 2.5 acres?
1.
1 acre.
R2 would be 2.5. Yes.
Just a little
Millersville only allows them on, I believe, 5 acres or more. If that's what, actually, I think they call theirs like an R40 or something, because it's greater than an acre or greater than 40,000 square feet. Some of our neighbors have their residential designations rounded to the acreage or the property size. Like R10 would be 10,000 square feet, R5 would be 5,000 square feet, R40 would be essentially an acre or greater. And then they also have agricultural zones too, which the city, Millersville doesn't have.
What about commercial property?
I've not seen any allowances for chickens on commercial properties unless somehow it's tied to like a hatchery or some sort of a business, but I haven't seen any of that. Portland has some language about hatcheries, but I think that's tied more to an agricultural activity as opposed to a commercial activity.
Do we not have anything now?
Right now, they are prohibited everywhere within the city. So if you see a chicken out there, you need to call code enforcement.
I just hear
We'll sick
every
for
morning, every day.
There are numerous property owners with chickens in our city, including roosters.
I hear Frank's turkeys came up to my house in the morning and make their way down to Frank's house.
They're just larger chickens, aren't they?
Is that, now you can shoot those as nuisance animals, right?
Well, it's turkey season right now, so help yourself.
So please share your
Just kicking
thoughts.
this around, or are we looking to try and get to a motion?
No, there's no action. I'm not asking for any action. I'm just asking for you to share your thoughts on that. And like I mentioned, it's not uncommon to have sanitary standards associated with keeping chickens, and noise and odor provisions usually in there too, especially for something. Well, that possibility that, and perhaps there needs to be language, and I haven't seen it elsewhere, but if we do have an epidemic come through, there probably ought to be authority vested in the city to take action against chickens within the city.
And wouldn't you have to have authority from the Department of Health?
I have no idea. That we would have to look into. But I really wanted your thoughts on it before I spend a lot more time digging in it.
I could go with R1, 2, or 3.
No small.
Yeah, that's at least an acre.
Mhm. Any limits on the numbers, tying to the acreage? Because I see that often. Like for instance, I believe Gallatin has it tied to a chicken for every 3,000 square foot.
I think there needs to be some kind of, something tied into it or get out of it.
Definitely no roosters.
Absolutely, yeah. Without exception, every chicken ordinance I've seen prohibits roosters.
Well, wouldn't you want to allow roosters, there's some 30-acre tracts, there's right here, there's a 5-acre tract that we were subdividing.
But then we get back to that old thing, if he's got them, why can't I have them?
Because you don't have 25 acres.
And we could put an exception for roosters if you have more than say, 10 acres or whatever. I mean, that's, next door they have 82 acres
I don't
of
know
roosters.
anything about
So,
that. Don't they have to have a rooster to lay it?
No, they just gotta have a
fertilize.
rooster to reproduce.
Yeah, just to fertilize the eggs, otherwise they just lay. They're like shooting blanks.
You don't have to count legs too bad.
Over my head.
Moving on, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Barr.
Yes, sir.
I would encourage, okay.
Was that enough information for you to?
I think so.
We've had one here.
Yes.
You want some more comment on size, R1, 2, 3, I would go with.
You agree with that?
And what you were saying about how many chickens per, how many gallons, 3,000, one chicken?
To 3,000 square foot of lot,
That's
yes.
one chicken. Well, we're gonna tell everybody what the size property, but we'll tell how many chickens.
And in some municipalities have, like I believe Portland, no, I'm sorry, White House allows chickens on an acre or more with an approval by the BZA per property. And other municipalities actually issue permits or licenses to keep. I'm thinking that's probably a little more complicated for what we need, to do. We are more of a rural community here. And then the allowance for those chickens is based on, if there are neighbors' complaints, code enforcement comes out, finds violations, then there's enforcement from that end.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to just give an ideal for you here this evening, because you did bring that to us.
I would put it on the agenda next month as an item, and we can study upon it and talk.
And I can bring more information to you.
And he can bring more information, and we can study it.
Okay, sounds good, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
That's my thought. Moving on to item number 8. We'll start with Secretary Gregory. You have any comment or general discussion?
Let me go back a little bit further here. On the multifamily residential, you mentioned apartments south of town. Should we find out, do you know exactly where that might be? You don't know for apartments, I know of one, but is there more than one?
Well, there are, apartments today are allowed in R5, R5M, and I believe R2, 3, and 4, as it stands today. And right now, it is really loosey-goosey on how many units per acre. In fact, there isn't any control over the number of units per acre. And that's, I'm not proposing that we have units per acre, but rather that we have minimum standards for open space. And then if we have building height limits, and they're also, the site is controlled by the number of parking spaces, that can then control the density of these multifamily projects. Now, south of town, we have, I believe, the Chad Ray property recently sold. Both parcels, the proposed multifamily as well as the self-storage. I was contacted by a realtor recently, actually about 2-3 weeks ago, informing me of that and asking me questions on its current zoning and whatever other entitlements there were for that. Also, we have another property owner almost at the very south end of town who has about 2.2 acres and is looking to build some smaller apartments there. And we're working through right now some conceptual site plans on that. My concern is at this point, if he moves forward with the application, he's going to be able to maximize his density beyond what I think is in the best interest of the city. But that's just my personal opinion. He is proposing somewhere in the neighborhood of about 75 units on this 2.2 acres, which works out to be more than 30 units per acre. In my opinion, that's pretty tight. We've looked at his proposed parking plan and driveway plan. It barely meets the the satisfaction of the fire department for turning radiuses and all that, but it does meet those requirements that the fire chief is looking for on it. Not much in the way of open space or green space. And it would be, technically in our ordinances, this planning commission can ask for more open space and whatnot. It's up to you all how you want it to be developed. And really your control over it is open space, recreational space, and separations, buffers, that kind of thing. The developer is going to bring forward 75 acres. So
Mr. Barr said, 2-bedroom units, no single.
he is limiting them to 2-bedroom units. Yes, sir.
One more question, I'm sorry, it's time, but, do we have any ordinances that say how much parking space that we base that on?
We do
1.5
indeed.
cars?
Actually,
1.5
two per dwelling unit is our code.
So it's 2.
Yes,
Is he
sir.
asking for 1.5?
He did originally, and he wanted it out to.
Is it 180 to 75?
Yes, because originally he had a number of 1-bedroom units planned in it, and I think he was also looking originally at just 2 floors, and now he's looking at a 2 and 3, since it's being built up on a hillside. So the two floors above 3 floors on 3 separate buildings, crossways on the hillside as you work your way down the hill.
We have fire protection capability to the 3rd floor.
Evidently, yes.
That was one of my questions. Are we, are we 2-story or 3 stories in this city?
I believe they will be sprinkled. And then obviously you'll have your FTCs, but Thomas has looked at it and preliminarily has agreed that it's satisfactory.
We have to have a hose that we can actually extend above the roof line of the apartment complex.
I can't answer that question. I don't know the specifications of fire suppression.
Even with the sprinkler system. Sprinkler systems required in all the
Right,
state.
and they're generally for, shooting out the fire before it runs and grows.
But I thought there had to be a hose had to be able to dangle down onto the roof. I think Hendersonville went through this years ago on a 5-story building.
I think it's
We'd like to hear it.
for next month.
I think what Vice Mayor is getting at, and I was gonna get at it too, we have 3-floor rescue. On the 3rd floor.
Do we have a ladder truck?
Yeah,
They go
do we have
they go
rescue?
beyond the 3rd floor.
We can't,
We do not at this time.
Yeah, When they built Hickory Bay Towers in Hendersonville, the developers ended up buying a new ladder truck for the city of Hendersonville, and it's 5 stories. This was back 1979, 78, 79.
No, this was only 5 stories.
The ladder truck.
We had bought one time when Mr. Hopefield caught on fire. They'd come up and get up above Mr. Hopefield down there.
It's getting up above and spraying the air.
At this time, I don't believe we have that. But that's not my expertise, that's not my role, that I can't answer that. But I'll check with Thomas on that and get some clarity for you.
That'd be nice. I'll check right over. You mentioned the realtor or contractor, whoever contacted you, what are their plans? And they talked to you about?
They didn't share that. They simply wanted to know what its current entitlements were.
How many acres is it?
I don't know.
12.
Including the proposed self-storage? Because there was a rezoning that went through,
We did.
a while back and created that as a C4 with a conceptual plan. And it's my understanding that there's a development agreement floating around somewhere that address both the self-storage units and some of the concept of the multifamily. We have not been able to locate that development.
He supposedly, if you come in, you want to straight up the driveway. The width of that, all the way up to the very back of where his warehouses are now, that's where the buildings are going to be. Okay? You come down 100 foot from the corner of my property and his property is where he was going to have the first turn to go to his residential complex over there. Okay? And he had to borrow it, we had to rezone an acre or two for him to get for his storage buildings to take away. So he wanted to build, we had to give him, I forget exactly what we said we would give him if he would do that.
And
It's total of 12, we're at 12 acres.
And the balance of that acreage, separate from the self-storage, the proposed self-storage is R5M, which while that's for mobile homes by special exception, that zoning class allows for multifamily.
But it's C1 now, no, R1 and C4, I think, is what we already know. R,
My map shows,
C5 or C.
I see C4 and R5M.
Yeah, R5M and C4.
Yes, that's what I've seen on our maps.
And the C4 is just for the storage units. Was for the storage, I don't know what's going to be there down
Well, we don't know either, but we just changed that and moved storage buildings from behind the residence and that got all the way to the corner of the interstate for their building.
there. Yeah, he agreed to move on that.
He did agree, so now he can,
Anything else, Mr. Rick?
no, sir.
All right, but
Nothing else.
I'm good.
okay, moving on. Moving on, item 9. Public comments. Is anybody sitting out in the audience that wants to speak to the commission? Or
Just
say,
be sure you give your name and address.
anything?
You don't even want to give it.
All right. The next planning commission meeting is scheduled for May the 9th, a little earlier than usual.
That's how the second Tuesday
All right,
falls.
falls on, okay. All right. Hearing no other,
Move that we adjourn?
yes, thank you, Mr. Proud seconds. Let the record show. Thank you, Mr. Bell and Mr. Proud.
Yeah, I actually talked to that,
More than likely. Mr. Fox, if you could sign that and pass that, Mr. Gregory. Oh, don't leave yet.
Brother Dave.
Okay, I'm gonna have to, I gotta do what I'm thinking.
We didn't discuss multifamily work fee.
I could have 300.
We didn't discuss multifamily.
Surely that's going to be brought
You
in.
know what that is anyway.
Thank you.
You want to do that?
Glad to know he's okay.
If you want to be in.
One time up on Douglas Lake, up in Superior County,
Above them units, like we're looking at.
I was up there with
I think that ought to be. I know up north.
my hen house up there, and
My
I was
wife,
supposed
people
to
from.
retrieve some eggs
Her
from the
dad,
hen house.
they live up there.
So I stuck my head in there, because for a little, stuck my head in there. Felt something looking at me,
Mayor,
turned up.